Hello there, welcome back. Good to see you. So this is the tutorial on, or the demonstration really, and tutorial on our setup and painting of this really interesting scene we got here of Bass Rock behind and the waves coming in. So I've all set up and raring to go. I've done a little sketch of it, so I'll show you that to you in a moment. And I've transferred the image onto the piece of paper now, all ready to start painting. One of the differences I've done is that when we arrived here an hour or two ago, the tide was much higher, so I preferred that. So I'm going to paint in this picture as if the tide is a bit higher. So I'm going to do a bit of imagination on that and I'm going to push the tide to the right a bit, because I like the colours of the blue sea in it, and I think that's going to make the picture much more lively. So let's get on with it then. We've got this blank sheet of paper in front of us. I've got the drawing on, and so now it's a question of starting. So I always start at the top of the picture and work downwards in the first wash. So it's a very broad wash that I undertake here. So I'm going to put, well, that's the wrong one, cobalt blue. Cobalt blue is the colour of the sky. So you put lots of cobalt blue on, so all mixed up. Right, okay. Now start to the top and we'll work down. It's very blue sky at the top there. We're getting in the first wash of the colour. Right, so working down, and that's quite pretty. Now I'm going to go into the sea, and the sea is a little bit of a different blue. So I'm going to use ultramarine blue and a little bit of alizarin crimson because it's a little bit red back there. And I'm going to plop that in. There we go. Trying to. Yeah, that's nice. So this is the first wash. Yeah, then keep working into the sea. A bit too red. I love a colourful picture. Amazing. Okay. Trying to work out my drawing, how I've done that. So I'll be going over that again, just to clarify it a bit more, but I'm really pleased with that wash so far. Trying to get the waves coming in, so leaving patches of white paper underneath, so give the impression of the waves coming in. I think it's quite pretty there. I use the word pretty quite often because that's such an important part of watercolour. It's to recognise when something is really pretty and looking good. So I'll carry on with the same colour because I've got to carry on with the water around here. So again, ultramarine blue. Very windy at the moment, so you might have a little bit of issues with the sound. But you're just going to have to bear it with me on that. Lots of lovely colour. A little bit of spit of sand that is in between. But I'm trying, as I said earlier, I'm trying to make it so I'm imagining the tide's in a bit. That's one of the beautiful things about painting, is that you can do that. In any other medium, no chance. Or if you're doing a photography, you can't imagine that the sea's a little bit further away. So that's a lot of fun with watercolour painting and oil painting as well. You can do the same thing with oil. So there's the surf's coming in from the left. So I imagine these waves, and I'm trying to use the paintbrush as the waves come in. Okay. Yes, way too bright. It'd just be a massive reflection. Unfortunately, Tanya, I'd love to oblige you, but so carrying down. See how I'm leaving the little white patches there, just to indicate the sea coming in. And as it gets onto the sand, it gets a little bit brighter, a little bit redder, because you've got the sand underneath. So I'm making a little bit sort of more purpley. So I'm using my little mop again. It's It's a professional watercolour mop by Winsor and Newton, a synthetic sable though, so it's not a proper sable brush, but that's fine. You don't have to buy proper stuff all the time. So it's what you do with the brush which is the most important part. Okay, so that's nice. So that's the basic beginning of the waves coming in. Just one last bit is there's a little bit of water underneath these rocks which I'll put in quickly as well. So the tide's actually about here at the moment, but I'm imagining it's over here. I just like the look of that more. A bit more colorization of it, which is I'm fond of that. Good, that's nice. Right, I'm going to tackle the sand now. So I'm going to use yellow ochre and a little bit of cobalt blue mixed in there. And let's see how that goes in. Maybe that's a bit light at the top. A bit of blue in it too, because it's picking up a lot of blue from the sky. So, and they're patches of different sand colours as well. So just overlay a little bit of like that. And there's a patch of sand in here as well. So you see I'm attacking it very, very broadly. It's one of the beautiful things about painting outdoors is that you have to attack it, and if you don't attack it, you don't finish it. So you're between a rock and a hard place out of doors. Okay. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of. There's some streams coming in now, so I'm going to get those in quickly. So I'm going to grab my my Raphael brush, my big Raphael brush, and I'm going to introduce a few streams that are coming in. So let's call it here, shall we? And maybe one here. Definitely there. So they're reflected lights coming in. That's quite fun. Right, back to the sand. More raw sienna. Changing the colour a bit. It's quite a big piece of paper. It's 15 by 21 inches, so a decent size. Okay. And then the sand goes up here as well. Okay, that's pretty much the sandy part done. Right, we're going to tackle Bass Rock now. Interesting, in full sunshine at the moment, which is lovely. So I'm going to get a little bit of reddy colour in there, trying to contrast it from the sky. So I think it's quite important. Trying to capture the light areas of it. And then it's got some lovely darks in it too. So this is just the first wash of it. So a bluer side, so sort of some lovely rocks going down the side. Save that for later. Okay. So that's the beginning of Bass Rock anyway, so I won't go into any more than that. Okay, going to go to the rocks now here. And they're quite dark, but there's actually got quite a lot of yellow on them too, so you need to capture some of that, sort of sparkling away those rocks. Trying to capture that in there. That's good. And then it moves down a bit to the next load of rocks. So I'll just paint them in roughly to begin with. And then these rocks here. There are lots of little rocks in the water as well. trying to catch. Definitely the word hinting is the important word here. I'm hinting at things. Let's try and capture the other rocks, the bigger rocks now. They're very changing colour in rocks, but I'm trying to simplify as much as I can. I say simplifying things for me is the essential part of painting outdoors. Painting outdoors like nothing else, you just don't have the time to spend too long on it because everything changes. Capture a few details of it, of those rocks. There'll be room for some white paint later on. Haven't done any cerulean blue yet, so I'm going to add a few bits of that. That was quite pretty. Okay, some more of the rocks in the sea now. Some in the sand. So they go quite grey in the sand over here. So they're very different colour. So a lot of what I do is value studies really. I look at how light and dark something is, and then I try and put that in. So because they're drier, I think they're a little bit lighter. Hinting all the time. Trying not to go into too much detail. Yeah, that's quite pretty. I like that. Right, I'm going to focus on the rocks at the back now because they're quite dark at the very bottom, which I find really very attractive. So trying to get those in and then moving up. Yeah, they're very, very interesting. They become almost black. They're volcanic rocks, so whether that has a factor or is it just, I think it might just be the sea making it dirty. So just trying to indicate things really, not great detail here at all. I never do too much detail. And a nice rock on the top there is quite fun. I mean, you can see that. Just indicating things. Yeah, that's nice. Little rock coming in here. They've got a shadow coming from, light's coming from the right, so there's a shadow on these rocks coming in, which is quite a fun thing to capture. Hundreds of these small rocks. Right, I will try and do a few of them. Littered with rocks. Okay, now another dark patch. This is where it hits the sea here. There's a big rock there. Going in here as well. That's good. Right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the horizon right, because it's sort of fuzzed out here. So I'm going to make it a much more firm horizon. So a little pure ultramarine blue, and maybe a little bit of alizarin crimson in there. So let's get that horizon more set. Yeah, that's good. There, that was good. got to have a steady hand to do that one. Yeah, so that's given a sense that the horizon's there. Right, okay, I'm going to tackle Bass Rock again. Now, apologies for the lighting conditions. It's really difficult for Tanya because we've got clouds today, and all the time the clouds are getting in front of the sun and changing the exposure. So that's why it's going bright and dark all the time. So apologies for that, but it's just part of painting outdoors. Right, now, Bass Rock, a very lovely shadow on the side here. So a nice bit of bright blue coming in. And then coming out there. Part of the fun of Bass Rock are the shadows that it creates. I think they are amazing. There's this really interesting sort of darkness that occurs on the side of Bass Rock. Isn't that fun? So yeah, that's really nice. Bass Rock is a wonderful thing to paint. It's been painted countless times, I'm sure. And then the rocks the other side. Hopefully you can see that. So the camera angles are a bit difficult today because the position of where I am balanced on this cliff is a bit awkward. Yeah, okay. Maybe a little bit of height. Spending a little bit more time on Bass Rock because it's such a wonderful feature here, and it's the thing that's going to hold the picture together. So I'm trying to be a little bbit more careful on Bass Rock more than anything else. So, and the message of that really is be selective. Sometimes, you know, make the important parts a little bit more careful, and leave it in other places. Okay, just a nice dark section at the very base of it now where it hits the water. There's a lighthouse on there as well, which I will indicate. Okay, that's Bass Rock done. Quite like that. Okay, so we're going to work on this little section here now with the rocks jetting in, and there's a bit of greenery there as well. So I think I'll do the rocks first. So they're quite dark, a bluey sort of dark colour. So I'm going to have them sort of moving in. So I see I left a bit of white there. You see that? And I'm imagining that's the splashing surf coming in, which it really is doing that. So leave the splashing white surf. There we go, that worked out nicely. And a little bit more here. A lot of watercolour painting is about preparation, and you have to be quite prepared when you do watercolour. You've got to think ahead. Yeah, like that. And again, you get some more coming in this side, some rocks coming in there. Some little rocks here, a bit too dark maybe. So always I'm trying to concentrate on the value. The values to me is the most important part of it. You have people like John Singer Sargent, who was probably the greatest painter that's ever lived in terms of his technical ability. Anyway, he was a master at technique and incredibly inventive chap, but he could do anything with any medium and make it look fantastic. If it was colour, he would make colour look great. If it was a charcoal drawing, he could make it look great as well, in a way that pretty much no one else could. He was amazing, that guy. Anything he touched turned to gold, anything, regardless of the medium. And what a skill that was. He's the envy of many. Right, just going to put the grass in here. There's a sort of grassy area. And then it goes down to a rocky area. Yeah, so I'm going to put it a bit more brown. As the rocks come in. Yeah, so rocks, and then the dark rocks underneath. So making it go a little bit more blue at the base, just to show that the rocks are quite dramatic. There's something left there. That was quite pretty. Like that. Okay, going to the Central Park, I can see a big rain cloud coming our way, so I'm going to have to move really fast now. Not that I haven't been going fast, but just an extra bit of speed is needed. Okay, we've got these big rocks here. Rocks coming in, lots of rocks coming in, so I'm going to have to go really fast now. So, lumps of rock. The rocks are the feature of this beach. The whole thing is littered with them. And they're quite grey in the distance. Where they're dry, they're quite grey. Move in. Some of them quite lighter grey. I do love the whole experience of painting outdoors. There's something about it which is, nothing like the studio. Now there's this sort of shed. They've got the water coming in here, so there's where the sand's been worn away. There's a little ridge that comes in. Let's tackle it faster. And just hope that the rain cloud doesn't come our way. Moving to bits of detail now. Now I've got to tackle the bottom of the pitch. I haven't even started that yet. So I'm going to go right down to this area here. Right, so it's a very large mass of darkness. Okay, so try and capture that. So it's brown, it's blue, it's all sorts of colours. Let's get more brown on it, I think. Okay. Quite interesting. There's like slabs. They're like quite cube-like, many of these things. And then you've got puddles on the top of water. So I'm going to indicate that with a bit of cobalt blue. So that would be like a reflection on the next layer coming in. So like a wash. I probably should have tackled this a little bit earlier as well. So I sort of left it really. There's so many other things to do, but I should have tackled it as well. So give it a chance to dry a bit. Well, I love one of Sargent's comments about watercolour. He being a great watercolourist himself, he used to call watercolour making an emergency out of a crisis. So even for the greatest in the world, it was always intense. Okay, that's that rock done there, and then the other rock is on the other side. Another rock coming in here. Try and introduce a little bit of happenings. Trying to create some shape in it. Right, the next part we're going to work on here, this is a bit of a weak area, so the tide's really pushing out now. So I still want to imagine that the tide is a bit higher, as I like the blue. So let's get a bit of blue going in here to give it the sense that there's still water coming in. Cobalt blue here maybe. Okay, so keep going back, trying to introduce more of these sort of waves that come in. See how bright that blue is? That was amazing. Watercolour is a bright medium. I think at its best, well, there's always a contradiction to it. You can get some magnificent watercolours which are quite monochromatic, but I like it. I like it a little bit brighter and more cheerful. So in the top there now, the watercolour is changing. So I'm going to add a little bit of cerulean blue, which is a greener blue to it. There we get this bit done. So get a little bit of variety going there. Good. Right, just having a quick look, see what's happening. Okay, I'm going to attack the rock at the bottom right again, just to give that a little bit more definition. So imagining the lights coming onto this rock. So really attacking that. There's a little puddle there. Yeah, that's quite nice. And now I'm going to move over to the next rock, the big rock, which I barely touched. So I'm going to give that a real going over now. Just trying to pick out the values more than anything else. There's a mark there. Gave it a bit of shape, I thought. And then it goes into the sea. Real dark bit at the top. That's a real dark bit here. I hope you managed to get, or I hope this managed to inspire you really to try and get out and paint. There's nothing like it. And when you do a painting from life, you never forget it. I've done lots of paintings from studios, and often I've completely forgotten. I see them years later, and I completely forgotten I've done them. But I've never not remembered a painting I've done outside because it was such a memorable experience all the time. Trying to keep that reflection now at the top. Imagining the waters there. So you begin to the cube nature of these rocks that are going to come out now. So if I put a little value study there, so that's starting to look more cube-like. So always looking at it, seeing what's happening. Yeah, that's quite fun. I like that. I do like that. Bit more blue, just to indicate it's. Sometimes with water, I just try and paint something blue, and it sort of, you automatically, the eye says, "Oh, that's water." So without actually ever having to do anything. So I imagine because the water is coming around the front of it there. So I'm just trying to imagine it's water coming in, and that's going to give it a hint of that. I'm going to give the cloud a little bit of extra to it. So just a little bit of cobalt blue, and just a little wash, just to darken the top. Otherwise it's a bit plain. One of the things with watercolour, when you paint an angle, it does drop down so that it drains and pulls the colour intensity away from the top of the picture. Okay, so a smaller brush now, and it's just a question of capturing a few details. So it's really the angles of where the sun was coming. So to paint the side of the rocks, so just to give the impression that there's an end to these things. And the sunshine was washing on them. So we're flicking over everything now. And right in the distance there's a little island. I think it's called the Isle of May. It's a flat island way in the distance. I'm not even sure that the camera can pick it up. So that is this island here. It's quite a long, flat one. So I'm just going to depict it like that briefly. I might add something to it later. And there's lots of shipping out there as well, which I'll put in. Okay, just a few details now. So working everywhere. Just capturing those little dots. The idea is when you stop, that's the real question. When do you stop? It's turned into a real storm behind me now. Right, so I can see when you paint everywhere, you suddenly start to see things where they need a bit of alteration. And I find that interesting with a sort of universal painting method. Right, so I've got some white paint out here. The weather's changed 100% from where I started out. It's a very blue painting here because it was very blue, but now it's something else. So I've got to imagine it as it was. So we've got the lighthouse here. So a little bit of white paint here. And there's some sort of boats. I put a boat in front of it. It's a long way away, so the boats will be tiny. Then we can see those. I always think a little bit of life helps a picture no end. And in the distance, Isle of May is sort of a white aspect to it here like that. So that's the Isle of May in the distance. And some more little boats, loads of them in the distance. There's actually a wind farm out there as well, so maybe that's part of the wind farm. Very bright boat there. And on Bass Rock itself, I think it has some sort of lighter areas, although it's all gone now. There. And some white patches for the waves coming in. Trying to capture a little bit of water splashing onto the sand, onto the rocks. Wow, the wind is amazing at the moment. Really blowing for it. Trying to capture the waves coming in now. Few splashes. Almost there. Sergeant always left his white paint to the end as well. And to capture it all. Here we get a bit of reflections coming in. Little dabs of light. And finally some little few more marks up here for the rocks. So there we have it. I've pretty much done it now, and it has been a really intense painting, as they always are outdoors. There's ever-changing light and wind problems. I've actually got my hand up here because I'm trying to cover the microphone because it's so windy, just to try and give you a little bit better noise, sound quality on it. And yeah, I enjoyed doing it, I must admit. And like I said earlier, it's always such a wonderful experience coming out and painting and having to get on with it and not having things distracting you when you're in the studio. It's a wonderful way of seeing things, and it's great to get out as well. So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed that, and that you liked the picture. It's a very colourful picture, bring a brightness to anyone's home, and I look forward to seeing you next time. If you can subscribe, that would be great, and maybe a thumbs up, that always helps the channel. Okay, until next time, thanks very much. Bye bye.